Welcome to Perfect Vocals Academy YouTube channel. If you want to learn audio engineering from top to bottom, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you know every single week when we release a new tutorial. Perfect Vocals Academy presents the Vocal Mixing Masterclass. Do you want to become a profitable audio engineer? This course includes a PVA sound treatment ebook, 15 in-depth videos, as well as worksheets for each video. Bonus video, how to profit as an up-and-coming audio engineer, and a bonus Pro Tools template using Waves plugins is also included. Hey guys, this video is about why your mixes are bad. It sounds harsh, but there are a few things that you could be missing that really determines whether you have a good or bad mix. So I want to go over these things. These are the things that kind of came to mind that I feel like I hear when I hear amateur mixes. So first of all, if you are the type that's boosting lows a lot of times lows do not need to be boosted, believe it or not, especially like with a beat. A lot of beats already have a lot of low end, too much probably usually, so you probably need to take some away. Too much lows makes it not translate in other places, you know. So if you're boosting it, and especially if your room is not treated, if you're boosting it and it sounds good in your room, and you're boosting, you know, bass on your beat, maybe your vocals, whatever, and you're boosting it so much to where it sounds good in your room, but your room's not treated, then you take it out to a car, it just sounds like a muddy mess. Like all it is low end, and you can't really hear anything clearly. It's not loud. So yeah, so let me show you an example here. Let me put an EQ on this beat. Now that might not sound like enough low end on whatever you're listening to, but 9 times out of 10, it is enough. So if I were to boost this, I mean, you hear it and it's hyped up. Like I said, you might like it in your studio and you might be vibing, but it is not going to translate anywhere with that. So having like, you know, 6-7 dB of a boost of low end is horrible. It's not going to translate anywhere. You're losing volume. You're not going to hear it on other devices like a phone and laptop and stuff. It's just going to affect other things in the mix and make everything suffer, basically. So if anything, if you take it to the car and it's still a little, you know, bassy and you didn't even boost, then you might need to cut a little bit. Don't you think to intervene? I won't persuade you to believe. If anything, you're just creating more headroom when you cut, and I'm not cutting very much. If you're gonna cut some low end, just cut a little bit. It just cleans it up. It just makes it nice. And same goes for vocals. You can, you know, put an EQ there. Say it sounds a little thin or something. I landed in style, feel like I landed up in all blacked out, young dripped up in Louis. I talk, but I don't talk it like a bully. Always on edge, I'm daring these to push me. I got my wings. I landed in style, feel like I landed up in all blacked out, young dripped up. Yeah, when you're boosting a bunch of lows in the vocals, a lot of times you're basically competing with the beat or the instrumental. The vocal really shouldn't be super prominent in the lows. Now, if it's a very thin vocal, you know, it's okay to boost a tiny bit. I landed in style, feel like I landed up in all blacked out, young
like a bully. Always on edge, I'm daring these to push.
Yeah, it can help it, you know, thicken it up just a little bit if it needs to be thickened up. But yeah, just be very careful with low end. Low end is very destructive, and a lot of amateurs will want to hear the low end a certain way, like they're in a car and stuff like that. But a lot of times your studio speakers in your room not being treated, you know, is going to make you just make bad decisions. So you can always reach for headphones. You know, headphones you can hear bass a lot better with, but even headphones take some getting used to as far as hearing the low end. But at least there's no room that's like, you know, making it sound like it shouldn't. So investing in some good headphones. I have some Sennheiser HD 650. That's what it is. They're a little pricey, but I mean, they translate pretty well. So you just want to get some headphones that are rated well and good reviews. Some open back headphones to be able to mix the low end properly if you don't have a treated room. So next, I want to talk about multi-band compression. If you don't have a multi-band compressor, because I know that they don't give you one with Pro Tools, you definitely should head over to waves.com, and I think that's their website, Waves Plugins. Google it, and a lot of times they're running sales. You can get the Waves C4 for usually $30 or something like that. So the multi-band compressor is going to level out frequencies that pop out in a vocal. Your mix is going to sound very bad and amateur to so many different sets of ears. Somebody that knows nothing about mixing is going to think it sounds bad. Someone that knows everything about mixing is going to say it sounds bad. We can pick up, like, you know, whether a vocal sounds smooth or not, whether it sounds in the pocket, in the mix. And you're not really going to have a vocal that sounds right and smooth and in the mix without some sort of multi-band compression. Some think that you can, you know, do a bunch of EQ cuts, which it's possible, but a lot of times when you're doing EQ cuts to cut out frequencies, you're taking away from the overall, you know, vocal, so making it sound way less natural. So if you are just cutting the frequencies instead of compressing them like a multi-band compressor, then odds are the vocal's not going to sound that natural, even if it is a little bit more controlled as far as the frequencies. So listen to this vocal without. Really like muddy and uneven. Now it's clear and leveled.
But I don't talk it like a bully. Always on edge, I'm daring these to push me. I got my wings, I like this.
Yeah, it levels it out. It levels the frequencies, compresses your frequencies. I like to set these bands to where they make sense. So, you know, your low end band, I put it up here around 185. So it has the low end in the vocal between like 100 and 185. And then you got your low mids, like 185 all the way up to the mids. I have it set, so low mids and mids. And then your high mids, and then your high frequencies. So your air is up here, your presence and sibilance is all in here, the body of the vocal and fatness of the vocals in here, and just like that, chest thickness is down here. Next, I wanted to bring up, you know, if your mix is bad, usually I can hear in a bad mix that a de-esser is either not present at all, or it's just not being used correctly, not enough, you know. I'm a firm believer that you really have to de-ess a good amount. When you try to be very light with de-essing, it doesn't really do the trick, and, you know, those S's will come through like a knife later when it's mastered.
I know I landed in style, feel like I landed.
Let's listen without this de-esser.
I know I landed in style, feel like I landed up in all blacked out, young dripped up in Louis.
It's just harsh. And then with it, if you listen to any professional mix on the radio or anything like that, those S's are not going to cut through like a knife. They're going to be very controlled. You'll be able to hear the S's, but it's not going to, cut through. It's just going to be very subtle. So I like to, just play with that threshold until it seems right. You could be playing with the threshold for like a good 5 minutes until it seems right, but that's okay. And next I wanted to bring up using too much reverb. Now, I think certain vocals, if they're going for a certain vibe, you can kind of get away with that big reverb sound. But I would keep in mind to EQ the reverb if you're going for that big sound. So taking off like low end, I don't have a reverb set up, but if I did, say here's my reverb, probably would put it on like a plate, and then I would turn the pre-delay up so the reverb's not happening exactly when the vocal is happening. It's kind of delaying a little bit after, letting the vocal come through dry first. So pre-delay can help with that. Give it a little pre-delay. EQ. And what makes reverb sound like it's taking over and making the mix muddy and sounding too much is usually low mid, so we're going to carve those off. You'd carve those off, and then what can make a reverb sound cheap is that like very high air sound, so we can cut that off to go all the way to like 3K. So somewhere around there, like, use your ears depending on the reverb, like 300 or 400 hertz, and then about 3K. That way, it's just like a mid-range reverb that's happening. I found that you can push the reverb a little more and make it more noticeable in a good way when you EQ it like that. A lot of times, certain artists don't want a lot of reverb, though, and that's okay because it can really push the vocal back into the mix when a lot of people desire to have the vocal just in your face. It's very hard to get a vocal really in your face when you're adding a bunch of reverb. But you can add a decent amount and still get a vocal in your face. It's all about that balance. And then lastly, I wanted to go over creating space for the vocal. So that's either EQing the beat to create the space or just EQing the vocal to, cut through the beat more. So in this case, I don't think I really EQ'd the beat much at all. I didn't really need to, but I EQ'd the vocal and made it cut through in different ways. So we got the wave C4. So we're cutting through with a bunch of air in the vocal, boosting some high mids by a decent amount. That's making it cut through more. Compression is bringing it up. I got the vintage exciter that's really bringing up harmonic distortion or harmonic excitement. EQ boosting a little bit of mid-range, around 1K coming through. So all these moves are going to create a space for the vocal because it's making it cut through that beat. And then it looks like I cut around 5K to make the vocal just a little harsh. Since I was cutting through in all these other ways, I'm able to afford to cut some harshness, and it still cuts very well, just not in a harsh way. So yes, those are the first things that come to my mind when I think of a bad mix. Just to recap: too much low end, bad. Not using multi-band compression, bad. You aren't properly using a De-Esser. That doesn't sound good. It never will. Using too much reverb. You have to be tasteful with it and take advantage of pre-delay and EQing the reverb, and then not creating space with the vocal, meaning you're not EQing it enough or processing it enough. If you're trying to be a minimalist and not boost really any highs, make the vocal sound kind of like it did when it came into the mic, it's going to be very difficult to get it to cut through and create space. So that's it for this video, guys. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Coming soon, I am releasing the Vocal Mixing Masterclass. It's my first online course, and it will be out in early 2022. I don't have a release date for it yet. I'm still working on it, but it will be a full course for anybody trying to take their skills to the next level. Maybe you know some about engineering, but you don't feel like you're really a master at it yet. This would be the perfect course for you. So for more info on that, just go to perfectvocalsacademy.com, subscribe to the mailing list, and you will get emails about it once it's released. Thanks, guys.